Hey person, I'm Tom from tdjacobs.com, and this is a video to introduce a new podcast venture with my friend Christopher Mitchell called Empowered Astrology. What you're going to see here is about a 7.5 minute excerpt of episode 1, and I hope you enjoy it. And then in the description of the video will be a link to that YouTube channel. So I hope you enjoy this, and stay tuned for some interesting episodes. Take care.
So I'm going to pass it off to Tom to start and invite you to share your take on this. Like, what are we doing here and how did this happen?
What are we doing here? How did this happen? So I have some people off and on over the years since I've written and channeled a number of books. People have asked me, where is your astrology basics book, where you introduce concepts and describe planets, houses, signs, etc. And I've always been hesitant to do that because, and I haven't done it, because I always refer people to Steve Forrest's books because I do kind of niche stuff at a very high level, which he does too, but he does have the basics teachings available. And I don't know, my Uranus in the first, maybe I just didn't want to slow down enough to think in a way that was about basics. Like for me, I had before wanted people to learn basics, learn it wherever you can learn it, whatever, do all your studies, and then come to me and I'll teach you how to do a very high level of Aquarian age astrology with the multi-life journey. And so I always kind of put it off and put it off and put it off. And in some of the tutoring that you have done with me, it turns into these, it has many times, because we're both former students of philosophy, it's turned into these dialogues and discussions, and there's just a chemistry whereby you, Chris, ask a question, and I realize there's something in the background that should be explained, like a very philosophical approach to it. And in some of those things, we just started talking about, I wanted to do another podcast, another thing on a regular basis, but maybe doing it alone wasn't the right thing for me, just for various reasons. And I didn't want to generate the stories of the basics. And you said something like, I was thinking of the people, but you said something like, well, what if we do it together and I'll ask you questions? And I was like, oh, that's perfect. Whatever it was, because I don't want to sit here and go on and on about it, but in dialogue, I'd love to. Mm-hmm. So that kind of idea came up, and then the idea of you kind of being a host and kind of me, whatever. And then I said, yeah, well, your voice will be welcome too, and we'll do it together. But maybe you can structure it since whatever. But that's where it came from. The desire to get some of these thoughts out, also have a collaboration, but also have a forum where, at least for a while, it's not about current events and larger mundane worldly things or all the individual stuff that I do with individual clients, but about teaching the basics. And so it seems like a great forum to essentially start from scratch, maybe not an exhaustive educational system on everything astrology, but really grounded and rooted in a kind of approach that I find helps people a lot. Mm-hmm. Coming into a new age, transitioning out of the Piscean age, and the kind of thought patterns that are very prevalent in modern astrology, that I'm like, oh, I'd love to offer, there's a little tweak on that in case it's helpful. And it turns out to be quite helpful. So this is the beginning of our garden, so to speak. I think of it that way.
For my part, it was like, and for those who are already familiar with astrology, I have my Venus conjunct Tom's, Moon and Mercury, right?
Moon, Mercury, Neptune. Yes.
I found Moon, Mercury, Neptune, right? And we're both Mercury, Neptune people, and there's some other kind of overlaps too. And when I found Tom's stuff, for me, I've told this story to people, that it was like, I was, and I'm very Uranian as well, so I was like, self-taught, like just kind of digesting from lots of different pieces across the net and different books. I did resonate with Stephen Forrest's stuff. I tuned into some other teachers as well. But when I found the way that Tom describes astrology, it felt like things started to cohese and accelerate in my understanding. And just for me, it was, it's been a reflection that's helped me to kind of like focus it all together and start to make sense of it in deeper ways and use it more effectively. So Tom's been a really great teacher for me in that regard around astrology. And I kind of couldn't get enough of it. I still can't, to be honest. And I'm like always eager to have these conversations and explore these astrological ideas with him. And so, you know, the offer of taking that tutoring and getting it for free all the time to explore all the questions I have, and then also creating cool, helpful content and like exploring growth through that was, you know, is fabulous. And there was actually two different conversations that were happening. There was the basics thing was its own idea where, you know, I kind of picked at that sometimes and prompted him a little bit about where's this set of foundational teachings to, because I like your take on Pluto. I like your take on Chiron. I want to hear as well the this same kind of breakdown for the signs, the houses, and the planets to have that way of thinking about them. To also get that reference point for those ways of for your way of thinking about those things too. And I like to joke with you that it could be an advanced basics course or something like that.
Right.
And then at points in our conversation, it started to feel exciting that I could be helpful in that process in drawing it out. And then I think there was also this other thing of like, and also it might be exciting to have a podcast at some point where we explore just all these other loose threads of possibility, from an episode about the age of Aquarius to an episode about this public figure's birth chart to an episode about this misconception about the nodes, and just to be able to go all the different places we want to go. And I think now it's arrived at this form where we are launching this Empowered Astrology podcast to talk about astrology in empowered ways, right? And to get kind of to tune into it in the way that we like to tune into it. And we're going to start that off by doing a run of episodes covering those foundational basics, and then launch off from there into wherever else we want to go. So we're starting here with the foundations so that it'll be available to anyone who might want to explore those episodes. And then we're going to start kind of just roaming wherever our curiosity takes us.